gonna work right. But we'll see. The folks at Safeway have done their best to try to assist me as well as their understanding and their abilities go. Some of them made some bad assumptions. It happens. Today was a rough one. So every goddamn part of my body hurts right now. And as far as my back damage goes, there was a gentleman a couple of days ago, and I dropped my cane, and the guy picked up my cane and handed it to me, which was nice of him, and then he tapped me on the back in just exactly the wrong spot. Sorry, there's some folks in the distance having an argument. I think I can't hardly hear what they're saying, so it's probably not getting picked up by my microphone. Which is good, because it's none of y'all's business, I'm sure. It's not sounding like it's violent or anything like that. So it ain't my business either. People got their lives, they're gonna have their arguments. That ain't nobody's business. When people are getting hurt, that's when it becomes all of our business. Anyway, there was a lady who approached me earlier today, and was pretty ambiguous, but apparently there's a feller I've been trying to take to court, and so far it's been elusive as all hell. And this lady talked to me today, and she said I'm friends with one of these guys' kids, and your predator's kid wants to talk to you. And they gave me the impression that this, well, not kid, that's, what's the word? Anyway, the moral of the story is that apparently the person's an adult. The person is a grown-ass adult and is one of my predator's offspring, and wanted, I guess, to get permission to talk to me from me or something. And I said I was pretty sure it was not allowed since I was trying to get that person into court. I did look it up though. And after letting that lady know that I was pretty sure it's illegal, and I didn't want her or this person getting in trouble. So I'm pretty sure that lady is not gonna come back and ask again. Then another lady, she come and talked to me, and she told me she was talking about my situation to one of her friends, I guess, I think that's what she was explaining, because there was some other background noise going on. But the part that I was able to understand word for word was when she was telling me that she just found out that this guy is the dad of one of her friends, and her friend doesn't like the man at all. So, and mind you, I recorded this. So I asked her if it was, I let her know about the lady earlier today. And I asked her if it's, if she thinks it's the same one. Because, first of all, I have a lot of people who pretend to be friends with somebody who are just trolls on the internet. Now, in real life, in a small town, it's a lot easier to get that information. Especially when people are fed up with somebody's shit and they seek you out to tell you about it. I only wrote down Wolnez. I didn't write anything down about his friends or family or anything like that. When I filled out the stuff against Scott DaCosta, I didn't say anything about his friends or family. When I filled out the paperwork against, God, what's that dipshit's name? Hold on a second. Ted Bollinger. I did mention some of his family. I tried to get a protection order against Ted Bollinger. I wrote one just for him, just in case. And I wrote one for him and Jennifer Farina Bollinger and who else was it? Troy Bollinger and I want to say Denise Kelly. Didn't go over so well. I was told I needed to turn it into the Dual County Sheriff, and that's what I did. Here I was told to turn it in. We ended up going down to the jail to turn it in because we went to the courthouse and turned in the paperwork at the courthouse. And then, see, this is the process that Joan Hansen had told me the second or third time I went to see her. In Nebraska, it's the same as it is here. You go to the courthouse, you turn in the paperwork at the clerk's, and then after you turn it in at the clerk's, they have you go to the sheriff's department. The problem is that the first time Joan Hansen told me to do that, she told me I needed to turn it, that I needed to, sorry, I'm chewing on my tongue here. She told me that it goes to the sheriff and he's the one that deals with it. I asked her where I needed to take them when I was done filling them out, and that was her answer the first time. And I explained to her that one of those protection orders was against Scott DaCosta. And she said, well, I don't know about that. Let me ask. And she came back and told me she didn't know. I was like, so if there's a protection order I'm trying to turn in against Scott DaCosta, I still have to turn it into Scott DaCosta? Like what, he's going to serve it on himself? And she said, I don't know. There's a lot of situations here that are mirrored. Now, with somebody I've been trying to get some paperwork on and actually get in court, like I already got the evidence. I just need someone to help with the paperwork and help me safely turn it in so that I'm not giving the mentally ill bullshit. Fuck, it's cold in here. The pictures on the front of this, 4 of them are pictures that I drew. The one in the top center, I drew that myself. The 3 at the bottom, I drew those as well. The middle one is in black and white. The one on the left bottom is once I colored it in a little bit, and then the one on the far right, I drew back in 2005, April of 2005, underneath the Boulder Public Library. When Natalie was killed, I was forced into homelessness. And from then on, all of the bias against the homeless gets to be used against me. They're all mentally ill. Oh, they're all lazy. Oh, they're all faking it. Oh, they're all rapists. They're all child molesters. They're all this. They're all that. And yeah, that's disheartening. It's hell. But when you're able-bodied, you're able to fight past that. You're able to get past that. You don't have to worry. You're able to defend yourself. But when you're no longer able to, then it's a different story. Anyway, this young lady tonight, she did the same thing as the lady earlier today. She told me a story about, and I didn't ask for this information, by the way. She said that one of this feller's offspring, she had just found out that, this guy was this person's father. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to be ambiguous. The first lady I talked to was ambiguous. I don't know if it was a son or a daughter, but we'll just, I suppose, keep it ambiguous for safety's sake. Anyway, this lady who volunteered up the information, she found out this guy was the father of one of her friends, like just found out. I asked if she thinks that this is the same offspring as this other lady, and she said, yeah, probably is. I'm pretty sure. And I said, well, I looked it up. This person hasn't done anything to me, and obviously isn't out to hurt me. The information that I was able to get is that this person is an adult. And the one that the lady here spoke to me about this evening might be the same one that was trying to get a hold of me through another lady. Now, if this is a situation where this person is trying to send their family to threaten, harass, molest, intimidate, or what's the other one? Oh, God, I'm trying to memorize all this shit because there's just so much of it. And if I forget one little part, that I'm a liar, like No, I fucking forgot one little piece. I do apologize. Anyway, that should help to put a stop to the abuse by that individual. If their offspring is actually trying to get a hold of me because they want to help put a stop to this nonsense, I'm all for it. I really am. This should have stopped a long time ago. Be careful, it's slick as shit out here. Sorry, I heard somebody walking now. That stuff, I figured I'd say something just because it's probably not a good place to fall down. Although the roads are better and the parking lot's better than it was a couple days ago. Anyway, there was also a issue. There was a man here. His family let me know about his. Well, they let me know about him. And today he's friends with one of my predators, and he doesn't want to get involved. But earlier today, he was very rude and condescending in a inappropriate fashion, and I went and talked to his daughter, and the situation was remedied and taken care of appropriately. And I got to take the video down. Well, not take it down. I don't want any of y'all having the impression that I destroyed it. I just made it unlisted. I don't actually believe in destroying evidence. I do believe in protecting the victims. Now, there's a possibility that this person's offspring is trying to get a hold of me because they're a victim of this feller as well. And if that's the case, I do believe that their voice should be heard. If it turns out that it's two of this predator's offspring that are trying to get a hold of me, I mean, if it helps to stop the abuse, I just want it to stop. Now, for the last 4 days, I have not had to deal with him in specific. So far as I know, I've heard some yelling in the background, and it's usually people just arguing with each other, or when somebody's kids are wanting to run a little bit too far ahead of the family, and you got to yell at them, hey, get back here with the family. We can't have you running 20 feet ahead of us. Get back here. But sometimes it is him. And I do try to pay attention to it. Earlier, heard something just barely, but the only reason that I was only barely able to hear it is because there was a vehicle that drove by. Like, man, I just barely heard that, but that was definitely somebody yelling at someone. Oh, God, scratch the lice out of my head. Meanwhile, I'm not very good at scratching because I don't have very much hand strength. Oh, it's probably not lice, but whatever. Still itches. Anyway, I figured I'd start this up and make a video. I hadn't been able to actually sit down and make a real video, sitting down and talking mostly calmly. But I also had a mental breakdown today and fucking started crying. And like, I know I do that every day, but I do it in my fucking vehicle where people can't see it. You'd be surprised how many people call the cops when a homeless man is crying. I try not to do that in public. Now, the young lady whose dad is friends with one of my predators, I did let her know about what was going on earlier today. And she said she'd talk to him or talk to her mom, one or the other. But he also had helped me out because they asked before, and he came in tonight, and I walked past him twice after the first incident, and he didn't say anything more to me after that first time. And he wanted me to turn in some can receipts while he was running to go talk to his daughter real quick. I was like, well, shit, I could save him some time and pay him back for helping me to get my vehicle moved. So I turned in his can receipts, paid him back for helping me. And I went and let her know, and I was, thankful for it. There was no more issues. I was able to take my video down. His family was able to let me know before any of this that there was a possibility of, sometimes there's an off day. And we all have them. And he's allowed, and he wasn't yelling at me or threatening my life or beating on my vehicle or beating on me or getting up in my face or calling me a pedophile or anything like that. So the issue, it started this evening and it ended this evening. Anyway, there was 2 people so far who, well, they didn't, y'all know that the youth today, even if they're in their 20s and 30s, they don't really want to write much. The younger they are, the less they want to write. But at least they wrote something. Sure, they didn't write a full incident report at all, but they verified I was telling the truth about multiple situations, and I got it in my pocket. And the lady who's trying to help me, like, you guys get to hear how frustrated I am with that situation, because the thing is, none of these people are bad people. You know, these aren't rich people. These are people who have to work for a living. These are people who have friends and relatives that are disabled who are living with them. Some of these people are people who the only reason they're not homeless is because they have a friend or relative that they live with, because they don't earn enough at a full-time job to be able to pay the rent here. So you do what you can. And the sad part about it is that most of these people were born and raised here. Most of these people are being pushed out of their own homes. It's really sad. So we'll see how everything goes. I know that once you have a permanent protection order in place, they're not allowed to harass you through a third party. I'm pretty sure that when you have a temporary protection order, that they're still not allowed to harass you through a third party. They are allowed to try to communicate with you through a lawyer. I don't have a lawyer. And my predators, well, they've got pretty well unlimited resources, some of them. Just because of the death of Natalie Bollinger and all of the sympathy that they got. I mean, holy Christ. The police committed multiple felonies to try to prevent me from showing evidence. They prevented a lot of felonies, actually. Now, as long as it's not an attempt to coerce me on behalf of one of my predators, then it's okay. So I let this lady tonight know that if this is the person who wanted to get a hold of me, I was fine with meeting with them. I looked it up, and it's a bunch of bullshit is what it is. It's just a bunch of complicated mess. But yeah, if there's other victims of his that are wanting to come forward, by all means, I could use some help turning them in. If you're afraid to turn them in alone, we'll do it together. We can do that. If that would make you feel safer, I'm totally down. Because I know for damn sure that would make me feel safer. One thing that scares me, now I'm willing to give up my life to get my evidence seen, to get someone to take my evidence. But I also got to see in January of 2018 what the police would actually do with my belongings. When I found out Natalie Bollinger was dead from cerebrola, when I knew that it wasn't just people fucking with me anymore, that she was actually dead, I went to a store called Into the Wind and I bought 3 postcards with wolves on them and some pomegranate juice. And I'd let Danica Garner know that I was going to St. John's, which is where Natalie rescued me. Natalie Bollinger and Maddie Boa both. Back in 2016. So, I let Danica know that I was there, and that if she could let a little bird know that I was there. I was pretty sure it was either Tim Beeson or Ted Bollinger who had killed Natalie at that point, and I let Danica Garner know that. And I let her know that I was at St. John's Church, and if she would let a little bird know, maybe they would come and try to get me, so to speak. And maybe they'd be dumb enough to use the gun that they killed Natalie with, and they'd get busted. I was not attempting to kill myself. I was not saying for the police to come shoot me, or kill me, or put me in the ground. I said please, as in Please, because Tim Beeson was getting in those Natalie Bollinger groups and saying that myself and another person should be put in the ground. Well, that's damn near comical coming from a man who is a sexual predator of Natalie Bollinger's. A man who, after she broke up with him, wanted to call her up over and over and over again and threatened to kill himself because she wouldn't touch his nays anymore. By the way, he's one of the predators that, after I left Virginia, this is after she'd already left Colorado, literally, to get away from these people. Tim Beeson and Ted Bollinger. She left Colorado to get away from the drugs, the addicts, and the abuse. And then she went right back to it. She went right back to those predators, right back to that familiarity, right back to those drugs, right back to that abuse. Because it's familiar. If the offspring of one of my predators is afraid of that predator too, doesn't it stand to reason that I should work together with that person so they can feel safe as well? Shouldn't the evidence that has shown the abuse against me, shouldn't that go to helping his other victims as well? I'm in a really bad way today. I'm in a lot of physical pain. I fell down a couple times yesterday and a couple times today, and with that guy touching my back in the wrong place, like that has some residual pain to it for a while. Falling down a couple of times, that's really tearing my shit up. And I'm trying not to cry, but like, oh my God, like just fucking make it stop. Natalie Bollinger was my best friend because she was my only friend. At the point that she came into my life, everybody had been just ignoring me, talking over me, telling me pretty memes to fix my problems. Meanwhile, they're not listening to my problems. They're busy telling me about all their problems, but they might be able to help me in a week or two and get back a hold of them. Or, oh yeah, Sean, I'll come and see you this weekend. You want to meet at the Starbucks on Pearl? And I say, no, I'd rather meet on the Starbucks on University and Broadway. And then they just wouldn't show up. Pierre Byron, aka Pierre Worsbluck, was going to come see me at Starbucks. Not only did he not show up when he said he would, he didn't speak to me for 3 days. And I had a pretty bad panic attack about that because I was having to deal with people threatening me and assaulting me at that point in time. There was also Ryan James. These are both before Natalie was killed that I was trying to get help from them. It's not illegal to go to your friends and family when you're being threatened, harassed, intimidated, stalked, beaten. Being assaulted. My friends said that they'd show up. Some of them even offered me money. I told them, hey, you know what? I could really use the money. I ain't gonna lie about that. I keep getting ripped off like a mofo. But I really need a friend in person, a friend in real life. By that point, I'd pretty much had to talk to my friends over Facebook for about a year, over a year of it. I mean, let me explain it like this. I had a phone that worked perfectly fine. It was just a flip phone. Natalie's sister wanted to give me a birthday present. This is while I was supposedly stalking him, by the way. She wanted to give me a birthday present. So she worked at the Cricket store. I was staying behind the Cricket store because Alicia Bollinger had asked me to. Alicia Bollinger gave me a smartphone that was Natalie Bollinger's old HTC phone. And it was really, really, really broken. And she changed my number over from my Cricket phone, or from my, what was it, Net 10, I think. Maybe it was Straight Talk. But she was able to change the number over from that company to Cricket. That way I could have the same number. And she was all excited about that. Like, hey, Sean, you'll get to have your same number, plus it'll be on a smartphone. So there's all this stuff you'll be able to do. And I'll show you how to do it. Well, she quit her job like 10 minutes after that. Literally 10 minutes after that. You know? And then it was, October 22nd or so? After I'd been literally dehydrated since October 18th, like severely dehydrated since October 18th. I didn't know how to use my phone. I was getting mean messages from, started off with some Tyler Frerich's friends in Montana over a racist post. I don't like racism. But that phone was broken as all hell and it wouldn't work. Like, all this stuff is overwhelming. And you get to see how one little rumor, just because a friend was embarrassed, oh God, poor you. I was having a medical fucking emergency. I'm sorry you were fucking embarrassed. Now, what happened a month after I left Virginia? Well, that phone that Natalie's sister had given me, she also wanted to give me this is her birthday present to me, Natalie's old busted ass phone. So she said she'd pay the bill on it too. The bill was in her name. My phone number was in Alicia Bollinger's name on Alicia Bollinger's account. Do you think she paid that bill? No, she didn't. And she wasn't going to, and that cut me off from a lot of my friends and family. For an at-risk adult, our telephone is our lifeline. And for me, having to go without a phone for that long, with my friends not able to get a hold of me, and me not able to get a hold of them, it was overwhelming. Then Brenda Dickinson, she gave me a telephone. I guess she had bought it to give to her mother, but she gave it to me instead, and that's good because I'd been without a phone for like 3 or 4 months by that point. It made it real difficult. Someone named Nathan Topham put a wavy hand up. Hello, Mr. Nathan Topham. Anyway, I know this video is long. I also know that the last time somebody beat on my vehicle was just yesterday. I also know that out of all of the times that people have beaten on my vehicle, thrown stuff at my vehicle, kicked my vehicle, yesterday was the first time that that it wasn't somebody hostile. It was somebody who was one of the local homeless folks, and he's also a fentanyl addict, and he's also honest about it, also trying to get help. And he wanted a cigarette, and I already told him he could have one. So he came over to my vehicle, but instead of letting me know he was here, I was getting ready to make a video about the situation with the systemic abuse and all that, or abuse in general, I guess. And right as I was getting ready to start it, I feel my vehicle get smacked, and I hear the, what do you call that? The ice on my vehicle breaking and falling off my vehicle, and it happened like 5 or 6 times real fast. So I was like, shit, I better press the start button. Fucking whoever's beating on my vehicle, I'm pretty sure I know who it is. It's either this person or one of their friends, and well, it was one of their former friends, I guess. Or maybe they're still friends, they just had to take a break because of BS. If they are still friends, this person told me that the other person is a piece of shit. So they're not real friendly with one another right now, obviously. Anyway, he wasn't trying to beat on my vehicle to hurt me. It wasn't the dude that I thought it was. It was one of his friends, I guess, sort of. Wanting to do something nice and feel like he had earned a cigarette instead of me just giving him one. I was able to record that, obviously, and everybody here knows I record, obviously. If you haven't by now, you've been living under a rock. I am aware of what the laws are. I'm also aware that there are ways that the law could be grossly reinterpreted to have me harmed. I also know that there have been legal precedents set to show that they're not allowed to do that. There are legal precedents set here in Oregon that show that a police officer can literally go to prison for that. So it's important to pay attention. Anyway, when an issue is resolved, there's really no reason for me not to take it down unless it has gone on for so long that it's not something I have immediate access to, and there's a lot of it. Now, if you keep victimizing me, I'm going to keep speaking up. You keep assaulting me, I'm going to still make sure that I'm recording. I'll try to record as often as possible just in case, because if you have a habit of running up on me out of nowhere and pulling some bullshit, it's probably a good idea to record the fact that it's actually happening. Record the fact that it's not a figment of my imagination. Now, there's quite a few people who are aware that this shit is not a figment of my imagination, and a lot of them are pissed at me. Well, that's all right. They're allowed. No matter how pissed off they are, I still got to tell the truth. Now, I did explain, hey, this guy whose daughter was speaking with me tonight, when he had given me a little bit of issue, I went to his daughter and I let her know, and it was pretty well stopped immediately. There's a possibility that this feller didn't even realize that there had been such a problem. That's one of the things about understanding people's traumas. If their family tell you that they've been harmed in a certain way, you know what that means. When somebody tells you that their friend has been choked out a few times, when you've met people who have been choked by people who are literally trying to kill them, their speech patterns are different. And their thinking might come across as a little bit slower because they're trying to formulate words when they've got brain damage from, well, basically, when you squeeze somebody like that, you end up bursting a bunch of blood vessels all over inside of their brain, inside of their face, inside of their neck, in their eyes, in their ears. Yeah, that does permanent damage. When I was having issues and, literally it got to the point where I just had to try to pull Wolnez's hoodie over his face. I was making sure that I did not choke him. Y'all got no idea how afraid I was of hurting him on accident. But you also get to see how time and again he assaulted me and assaulted my phone. You also get to see how I don't do well without my support network. And most of the time, my telephone is my only support network. Having to go through Facebook, it makes it difficult to get a hold of people, especially in an emergency. Because a lot of people don't have their Facebook permanently set up. A lot of them have phones that they don't have that attached to. They just have to go to the library and do that. And they don't get to the library very often. or they only get a half hour per day and they don't want to waste it all talking to me. So they'll send me a message, and of course, they might get to the Boulder Public Library a week later or 2 or 3 weeks later and then reply. And, the whole time I'm taking abuse. And they say, oh, well, that sucks. Well, fucking let me know what's going on, fill me in later on. Or, I'm sorry, I'm real busy with a lot of stuff in my own life. And yeah, I just have to trust and accept that, right? Let's see. Nathan Topham typed, keep speaking the truth. More people need to hear this. Well, I agree, Mr. Nathan Topham. The other thing is, not all of these are nice. Some of them I have real bad panic attacks, especially after somebody's just assaulted me or harmed me. And I have to try to maintain my calm and try to find somebody professional looking. Yeah, and you notice I said professional looking. It's because the looks are important. When I was in Clearview, none of those people were professional, but they sort of looked the part. Now, I said that those people were not trained. And it turns out one of the reasons that the state shut them down is because they had a bunch of people there that were not trained, were doing harmful things. I said that they were antagonizing inmates and then injecting them with drugs. That's right, antagonizing inmates. See, this is supposed to be a recovery center, not a jail, not a prison. You're not sentenced there. But that's not how they treat it. I was sent to Clearview to prevent me from turning in officers who had committed felonies against me, as well as against Natalie Bollinger. Before you try pretending like they were misdemeanors and you looked them up, Natalie's dead. So, yeah, those aren't misdemeanors anymore. The moment there's a fucking body, they're not misdemeanors anymore. There's a lot of my videos where I'm having a severe panic attack, where I'm screaming and shouting about the fact that people aren't hearing me, because I do need them to speak up with me, not for me. I don't need them to tell me that they did something with no proof. Now, if they're willing to show proof, or even better yet, show proof and speak up about it with me, that's a different story. But as long as it's just me that has to try to turn this stuff in, it's not going to be allowed. It's going to be talked over and disrespected. I don't just have the issue of being autistic. And by the way, it's Asperger's that I have. And one of the first clues that they had that I have Asperger's is that I had an 8th grade spelling level and a college reading level at the age of 6. That's called hyperlexia. And 96% of those with hyperlexia are autistic or have Asperger's. My apologies. However, only 14% of people with autism have hyperlexia. So although the majority of people with hyperlexia have Asperger's like me, and Asperger's is stuffed into the same category as autism, they are completely different. Like night and day different. Some of the things that trigger us are exactly the same, but that's because they are PTSD responses. Responses that people have when they're habitually abused, long-term abused. We're not talking about the physical or other abuse. We're talking about the second stage of that, the neglect. Neglect is the worst kind of abuse that there is. Now, explain to you this way. Here's how neglect works. Let's say you're walking through your house, or let's say you're walking through your apartment building, and one of your neighbors has his door open, and he is sexually assaulting a child, and you see this. First of all, it is not your fault that that person is doing it. You didn't make them do it. You just happened to chance upon it. It is not your fault that it happened. However, if you say nothing and you do nothing, it is your fault that person got away. It is your fault every single time that they do it after that. Because while you had the opportunity and the chance to be the change, to be the hero that somebody needed in their life, to be the person who gets the predator off the streets and out of your apartment building, or they can harm you and your kids, if you have any. If you do eventually speak up, how long does it take you? Months? Weeks? Years? You wait till you see him on the news. You find out that he's got over 30 victims in the last 5 years. And the victim that you've seen was 6 years ago. When stuff like that happens, and you neglect your duties as a human being, we end up with situations like, well, I'm not sure if you knew this. Jeffrey Dahmer had a 14-year-old victim who he had drilled a hole into this person's head. This 14-year-old was stark naked. The police got involved because two women who knew the 14-year-old, that 14-year-old ran into stark naked. And even though Jeffrey Dahmer was a registered sex offender, that's right, he was already a registered sex offender, the police threatened to arrest the two women. And the police released that 14-year-old boy over to a registered sex offender named Jeffrey Dahmer. You know what happened to those officers? They retired a couple of years ago. That's right. And what did those women have to say about the situation? If they'd have known that Jeffrey Dahmer was going to kill the boy, they wouldn't have cared that those officers were threatening to arrest them. They'd have gone to jail for it. They would have gone to jail to prevent Jeffrey Dahmer from killing a child. Well, 14, I guess that's a teenager. Helping a kid out is a tough situation. Now, this situation with one of my predator's offspring trying to get a hold of me, and possibly two of them. Um, it was stated outright that one of these people is absolutely an adult. So that's the one that I was willing to speak to. I also had to look it up first. I don't want a victim to get in trouble for trying to get a hold of me for help if it's going to get them arrested or put in jail, or if they're in violation of something somehow. With the feller whose daughter I spoke with, I was able to help him out. That made me feel better. With the lack of sleep that I've been getting, because it's fucking scary out here, and especially with the falling down a few times. And like I said, I slipped on the ice, but I was able to maintain my balance. That requires your core. That means, your abdomen and also your back muscles, especially your lower back muscles. But the problem is, as soon as I adjust to try to maintain my balance, I get that shock up my back that drops me down to the ground, and basically I end up hurting myself by trying to readjust. So I'm incredibly tired right now. Usually when I'm tired, I ramble from subject to subject, and eventually I'm just thinking about stuff in my head, and I kind of sort of once in a while realize that I'm passing out while I'm making a video, so I should probably turn off the video, because when you're talking, when you're half asleep, only half the words you're saying are legible, and it eventually turns into gibberish and nonsense. Although I've been, I believe, 3 or 4 days without one of the predators here messing with me, I have still been messed with by some of them youth. One of the fellers at Safeway wrote a letter about that, that I can take into the judge. And one of the other employees was there when I was being called racial slurs, and she wrote a little note about that I can take with me. There's a couple other folks that are trying to get people to help me to get a room for a week or so because of the weather. Especially, I know some of y'all are gonna be pissed off at me for saying this. You want me to be a cold-hearted son of a bitch to my predators, but with Juanes and people telling me to go to St. Albans Church here, saying, hey, there's a warming center at St. Albans Church, right? Well, here's the thing. I have a car. What does Andrew Wolnez have when it's freezing outside? He got kicked out of camp by his campmates because he was being a dickhead who wouldn't leave me alone. There's a lot of people that are really mad at him right now, so he may not have any safe place to go. Yeah, he hit my vehicle on at least, well, I'd say at least 30 occasions altogether. It was recorded on at least 20. He was recorded assaulting me at least 6 times, 7 times. 7 times, I think. Might have been 8. I mean, there's just been so much of it, you know. Nearly every time he assaults me, he tries going for my phone as well. Tries to break a phone that could put a lot of predators behind bars, a lot of pedophiles, which he wants to keep trying to pretend that I am, as his excuse to assault me. Well, that's his decision, not mine. For an officer to say that I brought this on myself, no, I absolutely didn't. I tried doing the right thing and going to the cops about many situations here. They wanted to slander my name to the homeless, say that I was wanted for murder in Colorado. That's 100% not the case. If I was wanted for murder in Colorado, they would have had to arrest me. There is no state in the Union that is a sanctuary state for a murderer. Remember that. There are several sanctuary states if you're somebody who's wanted for a felon. If you're wanted for a felony, there are several states that will take you and will not extradite. But if you murder somebody, every state will fucking extradite you. Unless you committed a murder in that state too. We've gotten to see more than once where 2 states fought in court over who gets to have a murderer. Over whether he should be extradited or stay there and face charges there for murder. With Wolnez threatening to shoot me, that freaks me out. It also pisses me off when people don't keep their word about that. If you're not going to follow through, don't say it to begin with. Just leave me alone. And that's what should have happened here. Now, as many of you know, I have multiple predators. If you want to be mad about me not going to the warming centers because I don't want Wolnez to get kicked out, well, please have at least some of a heart. At least some. I've almost frozen to death before. It's a horrible way to go. It's slow and it's painful. Anyway, there's videos where I use the C word a lot. You know the one. Why do I use that word? Do I use it the way that Americans do? I mean, I'm an American. It's probably that way. Well, no, I actually use that word the way that the British do. Slightly modified. You have to get someone hurt or killed for me to call you that word. So if you didn't get someone hurt or killed, you don't get called that. I'm not sexist with it. I'll call a male or a female that. Now, where did I learn that word? From predators. You know, people that beat their wives. It's not the only word I learned from them. Now, there's, of course, the word bitch, and that one's real popular, but I don't use that one so much because I know a lot of people that are proud of that fact. My little sister says, you know what? You fuck with my kid, I'll be a bitch. Or one of her favorites, if someone calls her a bitch, she'll say, that's queen bitch to you. So that one's not so insulting, is it? But that C word, man, I gotta tell you, that gets under skin. Oh, you call somebody that word, you might as well have punched him in the face with a fucking brick 30 times. That's the way it's gonna be treated. Soon as you use that word, people who have been in shitty fucking relationships, they recognize that word. That's oh, you're gonna listen to this. Yeah, it's a desperate situation and I'm gonna drop the C. Or I'm not getting what I want, I'll drop the C. For me, it's you're getting innocent people harmed. That's where you get the C word. When people are being harmed over things they did not do. Yeah, you're going to have to hear that C word. But do I start off with that C word? No, I start off as any reasonable human being. Asking these people nicely to stop. Trying to explain to them as an adult what is going on. A lot of the people who had been predatory towards Natalie Bollinger wanted to threaten my life before she was dead. Wanted to harass me before she was dead. You know, if you just leave somebody alone, all right? You just leave them alone. Not go spreading slander because you got fucking embarrassed. You would be surprised at how easy it is to get left alone, especially when somebody literally drives 1,700 miles to get away from you. That's right, folks. I drove 1,700 miles to get away from Natalie Bollinger and her family in Virginia in 2016. 1,700 miles to get the hell away from them. I drove from Chesapeake, Virginia to my home in Boulder, Colorado. where I was promptly threatened and assaulted. With people keeping coming up and talking to me about Wolnez. A lot of them come up and talk to me while I wasn't able to record because I didn't have any battery on my phone. Or I felt I needed to conserve it for in case of another assault. I was able to dig out my audio recording device and able to use it a couple of times tonight. So, you know, the situation with the young lady that was telling me about her friend who they just found out, I guess, or she just found out that her friend is the offspring of one of my predators. I do have that recorded on an audio device. And yeah, I'm keeping it pretty ambiguous because I'm really trying hard to follow the laws, and I always have. But also I have to look this shit up because, you know, there's the interpretation that you read on it from Google. Then there's the actual laws and what they actually state. And then there's, of course, case law, which shows you how it's used or how it has been used. And case law is the law that sets legal precedents. So you got to look that stuff up to make sure that you're trying to, well, honestly, looking at the case law stuff, pretty much anything that you do is against the law. Because if you look up case law, you'll notice that judges have erred many times and ruled in opposing directions on the exact same directives or situations. So when you're looking for case law and saying, well, see, this is how it's been interpreted by the law already, so that needs to be maintained. A lot of times you guys will allow stuff that you know is immoral as all fuck. You'll allow a homeless person to be railroaded in court, and then it makes case law that even though it's something that you would never want happening to you, it happened to a homeless person, so it doesn't matter. But the case law can be used against you. All gets incredibly complicated. And then, of course, we got public pretenders, and what do? They try to talk over you, dismiss everything you say, try to pretend that nothing will be allowed in court, that they can't requisition this, they can't requisition that. They just have to go with the prosecutor's recommendation, not allowed to introduce any evidence that the police didn't collect, and so on and so on and so on, and it's all bullshit. Anyway, I've been talking for a while. I should probably end this video. Hopefully the situation with my victim's offspring doesn't end up being me being threatened, harassed, intimidated, or assaulted again. Hopefully it's somebody who legitimately wants to do the right thing. Also, hopefully it's not somebody who's one of his victims. I'm hoping not. I really am hoping not. But if that person says that they were victimized, well, with the history of this person against me, I would pretty well have to stand with their offspring on principle. If this person has hurt you in the same way that they're hurting me, well, that goes to show that it's not just the figment of my imagination, it must be the figment of at least a couple of people's imagination. You also might have noticed that, well, for example, when them youngins were screaming the N-word and there was one of the Safeway employees in the parking lot, and I started the recording because I heard them screaming the N-word, and I walked up to him and I was asking him if he heard them screaming the N-word, and he said, no, I didn't. I wasn't really paying attention or something of that order. But then we heard some of them youngins screaming the N-word driving by, and then they drove by again and screamed that N-word. And he got to hear both of those situations very loud and clear. And they did use my name, like screaming it directly at me. Just as many people have pulled up next to my vehicle and screamed it. Anyway, I can barely keep my eyes open. I'm hoping I was able to be as ambiguous as possible to protect the victims' names, ages, and genders. But it depends on which process of this we're going through, because there's one situation where, yeah, I said that it was oh, fuck. Yawning. I guess that's my cue to cut off the video because my words probably won't come out right at this point. Good to be rid of you. Thanks for coming to visit. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Remember, you are your brother's keeper and your sister's keeper too. And no victim left behind. Also, don't make videos when you're fucking half asleep. Be safe. Good night.